أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم. الله أكبر. إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا. أحسن. اللهم وفق. عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات ويدخل
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. On behalf of Hayes Muslim Center, on behalf of Angel Muslim Center, we welcome you all to another Friday transmission. I would like to take this opportunity to pray that all of you are doing well. All of us, we have been going through some difficult times, some challenging time. And I personally know a lot of people, they are suffering, not just because of the financial issues, just because of the stress and what is going around us. So we pray, we wish all of you, wherever you are listening to us, you're safe, your families are safe, and our prayers and best wishes are always with you. Alhamdulillah, at Hayes Muslim Center, I just want to say we are here for our local community, that whatever we can do and whatever way we can add some value into your life, please get in touch with us. We are available on social media. You can contact us via email. You can contact us via phone number. You can contact our trustees, our executive management team. And also you can contact our center manager, who is there every single day if you need advice on any specific pressing issue. At the same time, alhamdulillah, we are serving the community in different ways. I'm going to go into this detail, inshallah, a little bit later on. I can see our Imam is online now, inshallah. We start the program with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the recitation of Quran. And inshallah, Imam is going to give a short message in Urdu for our Urdu audience for 4-5 minutes, inshallah. And then we will continue the program. So I would like to request Imam Arkam Sahib, inshallah, to start our program with the recitation of Quran. Imam Sahib, over to you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد صدق الله العظيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد میں نے جو رکوع تلاوت کیا اس میں سب سے پہلے جو آیت ہے ان فی خلق السماوات والارض واختلاف اللیل والنہار لآیات لأولی الالباب الذین یذکرون اللہ قیاما وقعودا وعلی جنوبہم آسمان کی ان فی خلق السماوات والارض آسمان اور زمین کی پیدائش اور تخلیق یہ ایک نشانی ہے عقل مندوں کے لیے پھر ساتھ میں فرمایا کہ عقل مند کیسے عقل مند جو اللہ کو ہمیشہ یاد کرتے ہیں الذین یذکرون اللہ قیاما وقعودا وعلی جنوبہم اللہ کو یاد کرتے ہیں اللہ کی بنائی ہوئی چیزوں کی یعنی اللہ کی مخلوقات پر تخلیق پر اللہ کی تخلیق پر وہ غور و فکر کرتے ہیں ہماری نماز کا اصل مقصد بھی اللہ کو یاد کرنا ہے آج ہماری نمازوں کا حال یہ ہوا ہے کہ ہم نمازوں کے اندر بھی گناہ کبیرہ کا پروگرام بناتے ہیں یہ ایک بہت ہی انتہائی بری بات ہے ہماری نماز ایسی شیطان وسوسے ڈالتا ہے شیطان نے کبھی یہ بات ڈالی کبھی یہ ہوتا یہ ہے کہ سورہ فاتحہ کی جگہ پہ ہم نے اتحیات پڑھ لی اتحیات کی جگہ پہ سورہ فاتحہ پڑھ لی لوگوں کے سوالات آتے ہیں وہ کہتے ہیں کہ ہم نے اتحیات کی جگہ پہ سورہ فاتحہ پڑھ لی کیا ہماری نماز ہوگی یا نہیں ہوگی وہ دوسرا مسئلہ ہے کہ نماز ہوگی یا نہیں ہوگی لیکن اب سب سے پہلی بات سوچنے کی یہ ہے کہ جس نماز کو ہمیں اللہ کو یاد کرنے کے لیے پڑھنا چاہیے تھا تو ہم نے اس نماز کو بھی اللہ کی یاد سے دور کر دیا ہماری نمازیں صحیح نہیں ہیں تو یہاں ہماری جب نمازیں صحیح ہوگی ہماری نمازیں ہمیں سکون دے گی ان الصلاۃ اقم الصلاۃ لذکری نماز جو ہے ہم ادا کرتے ہیں وہ اللہ کے ذکر کے لیے اللہ کو یاد کرنے کے لیے اور ایسی یاد جو ہے وہ ہمارے دل کو سکون بخشتا ہے تو کیا آپ ہمیں صرف 1 منٹ کے لیے اپنا سروے کرے اپنے آپ کو دیکھے غور کرے کہ کیا ہماری نمازیں ایسی ہے جو ہماری نمازیں اللہ کو یاد کرتی ہو اور اس یاد کی وجہ سے ہمیں سکون ملتا ہو کہ ہماری نمازیں ایسی ہے اسی وجہ سے تو قرآن کہتا ہے ان الصلاۃ تنہی عن الفحشاء والمنکر نمازیں بری چیزوں سے بچاتی ہے آج ہم سب کو اشکال اور ہمارے ذہن میں یہ سوال پیدا ہوتا ہے کہ ہم نماز تو 5 وقت کی پڑھتے ہیں لیکن ہم برائی سے رک نہیں سکتے کیا وجہ ہے اس کی وجہ ہی یہ ہے کہ ہم نے نماز کو اللہ کے ذکر کے لیے ادا ہی نہیں کیا ہے ہم نے ہماری قیام ہمارا رکوع ہمارا سجود ہماری نماز ہماری صحیح نہیں ہے تو ہمیں سب سے پہلے ہماری نمازوں کو صحیح کرنا ہے نماز کو صحیح کرو گے اور اس وقت جب نماز پڑھو گے تو یہ نماز جو ہے ہمیں برائی سے بچائے گا اور یہ نماز اللہ کے ذکر کے لیے ہوگا और यही नमाज फिर हमारे लिए सुकून का जरिया बनेगा। अल्लाह रब्बुल इज्जत हम सबको सही समझ और अल्लाह रब्बुल इज्जत की बातों पर और सरकार दो आलम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की सुन्नतों पर अमल करने की तौफीक अता फरमाए। आमीन व आखिरु दावाना अनिल हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन।
जज़ाकल्लाह खैर मौलाना, अल्लाह ताला आपको जज़ाए खैर दे और हम सबको जो कहा आपने उस पे अमल करने की तौफीक दे. Brothers, sisters, we move on inshallah. In the meantime, I would like to remind all of you, I'm just going to share my screen for 1 minute. Today our guest speaker is Mufti Amjad Mohammed Sahib. So this is a second part of the topic which we have discussed last week, atheism and Islam. Very, very relevant topic, especially I would say to the age group, anybody who's 14, 15 and above. This is a very, very relevant topics in the school, in the colleges, in the university, and even in the wider community as well, because there is a lot of effort and a lot of resources are there to prove or to say that God doesn't exist. So you may not know as a parents, you may not know as elder in the family that what is going on in the schools, in the colleges, in the discussion, in the debates. So it's a very, very relevant topic. And I would like to request everybody who's on the call, we have about 4-5 minutes, inshallah. I will invite Sheikh exactly at 12:45 to start his talk. So you have 4-5 minutes, so you can invite your friend, family, call them, message them, or WhatsApp them, ask them to join our YouTube channel, because this is broadcast on the YouTube as well. So you have 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes to invite your friend and family. In the meantime, on behalf of Atheist Muslim Center, I would like to remind you, alhamdulillah, we are here in these difficult times, in the challenging times, to support our community. Anybody you know, elderly, if they need a help, if they need a support, either it is for the shopping or even if they're financially struggling to meet some of their basic necessities, alhamdulillah, we are here to provide the basic food. We are here to provide a delivery service for do the shopping for them, or if they need any medicines or pick and drop, alhamdulillah, we are here. At the same time, this is something, my personal experience I'm sharing with you. We always, most of the time as a masjid or as a charity organization, we focus on elderly, disabled, or people who are less fortunate. But let me tell you, there are a lot of people in this country, they have a different type of issue. They are on a visa, they're immigrant here, and their status does not allow them to work or to be dependent on social services or claim any benefit. These are the people, they don't want to raise their hand in front of anybody. I know there are students, I know there are some of the professionals, the work permit got cancelled, and they are hesitant because of their personal dignity to say or ask somebody. So brothers, sisters, and my elders, you need to look around. Maybe somebody's in your friend list, in your neighbors, is in difficulty, in challenging, and he's not talking to anybody because of the personal self-respect. I personally know a few people, I have approached them, and they had these type of issues. So they're students, they're professionals, they're not British citizens, they're not allowed to make to claim any benefits. Please look around. If anybody needs, irrespective of their race, religion, if anybody needs help with regards to basic food necessities, alhamdulillah, at Atheist Muslim Center, we're here to help and support everybody. So what we need to do, we need to talk to a lot of people. We need to spread this message. We put it on our social media, on our website as well. But word of mouth is much more powerful and much more effective. To speak to your friends, family, and tell them, anybody who needs any type of support, alhamdulillah, we are happy to assist. And we pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us out in this situation. Also, we are going to update you today, because there's a lot of discussion and a lot of calls, the masjid, regarding opening of masjid. So brother, alhamdulillah, we at Atheist Muslim Center, we wish to open the masjid as soon as possible. We love to see our community praying in the masjid as soon as possible. But what we got to do, we got to follow the government instruction, we got to follow all the the guidelines in place. So inshallah, at the end of the call, we will update you on this one as well. So I'm just going to play a short video to show you a little bit the work Mufti Amjad Sahib is doing, inshallah. Just allow me 1 minute, please. Let me share my screen. I'm just going to play a short video. It will give you a little bit introduction about the Sheikh. He's running a mashallah organization called Olive Foundation. He is doing a lot of research work. He is part of a lot of the national organizations and charity organization, and doing a lot of work in the community. So I'm just going to play a short video, inshallah, and then we will invite Sheikh to start his talk.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, and welcome to our institute, the Olive Foundation, Darul Ulum Zaytuniya here in Bradford. Just to give you a short history, we started way back in around 2004-2005, and we started in a rented accommodation, 4, 5 rooms, 6 rooms, a large detached property with about 40 pupils and about 5 teachers. It was a boys' school originally, but within a few weeks and months, we had applications for a girls' school. So eventually, we needed to start a girls' school, and we ended up in these premises here, which you've probably seen the clips of, as is being discussed. And we bought this, and when we bought it originally, we had to borrow a lot of Qarda Hasana in order to buy it. Once we bought it, obviously the building we bought was in a serious level of disrepair, and then we had to borrow more money in order to bring this building up to standards. We now have at this building 2 schools, Olive Secondary Boys School, Olive Secondary Girls Schools. We have 2 elementary academies in which we teach both Qaida, Nazira and Hifz class. And also now we have the higher academy in which we teach the Alamiyah, which is the 8-year course of the full Alim course. We have had, alhamdulillah, over the years, 30 odd students becoming Hafiz of Qur'an, who are now leading Taraweeh up and down the country and outside of the country. And we also have 30 odd graduates who themselves are now teachers and doing other work of deen, alhamdulillah. But with that, we haven't just stopped at education. Alhamdulillah, we've also got a Darul Iftar downstairs, which you would have again seen maybe a clip of, Markazul Iftar wal Qada, which is internationally recognized, alhamdulillah, and deals with not only the day-to-day affairs of the public, but also public bodies and commercial institutes. And similarly, we have a research center, which is the Institute for the Revival of Traditional Islamic Sciences, in which we carry out thorough research on various topics. And I advise you to go onto the website to have a look at what we've done. We have obviously grown and grown and grown, and now we've grown because the need of the community is there to provide for the community. So we want to continue to provide for the community. But as you can see with the building, which was built in 1905, a few years older than me, is a building which genuinely runs into disrepair. So maintaining a building of this size is expensive, especially being a grade 2 listed building in which we have to ensure that the same materials are used when we're replacing old material, which can be very expensive. Similarly, we have still got outstanding qards left, some going back nearly 10-15 years when we were first brought about, which we really need to give back. People have been asking for it last year and the year before, and unfortunately we've not been in a position to pay it. So in total it's a big grand sum of around £280,000. However, our immediate needs are in the region of, I think, 30 to 40,000. But any can help. You can, any amount of money that's given will assist us in continuing to provide this service, because apart from the educational services we provide, all the other services are provided for free, and helping people in difficult circumstances to overcome their issues and be able to live their lives according to Islam. So assist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. You will benefit the community not only in Bradford but in the UK and beyond, and also it will be your Sadaqatul Jariyah, in which you will continue to get ajr either for yourself or for a deceased loved one that you can give for, so that they continue to get the reward as we continue to do our work. Jazakumullah khairan for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair, brother, sister. Without any further delay, I would like to invite Mufti Amjad Mohammed Sahab. He was with us last week as well, and he covered the first part 1 of this very relevant topic. Today, inshallah, this is a part 2. This is just a little bit of insight of the topic. This topic needs a lot more discussion, a complete workshop. Hopefully, inshallah, coming months, we may arrange a maybe 2-3 hours workshop and invite all of you to come and have an interactive session on this topic. So without any further delay, I would like to ask the Mufti Sahab So your Mufti Sahib, your host, and you can start the conversation with the community, inshallah. Over to you, Mufti Sahib.
نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم ما بعد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم خير Ziyabai and the rest at the masjid and the institute for again giving me an opportunity. Clearly I haven't bored you yet to speak again, and I want to add on this. It is an absolutely essential topic, and I heard some of the comments last week that some of the material that I'm sharing is somewhat technical. But as you mentioned there, this is just to raise awareness. I don't expect anybody, apart from some PhD student who's listening in, I don't expect anybody to walk away after the 2 sessions and suddenly be able to deal with this. This is a big issue. It's affecting our communities, and it's affecting particularly about our young people, sort of secondary school age, college age, and university age. But it's not just restricted to them. Some of us slightly more oldies, as I would refer to us, are also, you know, those of us who are asking challenging questions. Maybe we accepted certain things when we were younger, but now we kind of reach middle age and we start to question the big questions, you know, and doubt. You know, we sit with our work colleagues and they start putting doubt into our minds because they have a different belief system. So it's not just for people. The only reason we mention the youngsters more often is because that's where they make their decisions as to which direction they will take their life in. So please take that disclaimer about the fact that I don't expect individuals to finish today's session and become experts on the whole concept of atheism and how to tackle it. As you mentioned there, clearly this needs to be delivered over a long period of time, more interactive. Each person is at a different understanding, and as a result, we'll see things differently. So I'm now going to share my screen with you so that you will be able to see the slides that I prepared. So I'm assuming, Zia, that we can see all this?
Yes, Mufti Sahib, just in few minutes, if you can recap a little bit.
I was going to do that. Okay. That's why I set up. I supposedly I'm a teacher, so we always do recap before we go into teach mode, inshallah ta'ala. So yeah, so let me just minimize this. So now you are all minimized. Okay. So I do like to use provocative titles, as those of you who have watched any of my lectures on YouTube or in person, and there's a reason for that, because I like to provocate thought. I like people to engage with my lectures so that, you know, the subject matter becomes alive. Somebody's requesting remote control of my screen. Okay, should I prove that?
No, Mufti Sahib, don't accept it. I don't know who is this person. I need to identify because he's sending. This is not something. Don't approve anything.
Okay, so I've declined that. I don't want anybody controlling me. Anyway, so atheism, the denial of God. So, and hence you see me using phrases. This is obviously from Shakespeare. Atheism is dead. Long live atheism. The king is dead. Long live the king. Meaning, even though atheism is dead, is not in reality dead. So in that session, once my mouse becomes alive again, I chose why I chose Islam, or I discussed rather why I chose Islam as the religion to debate with the atheistic. I then introduced key characters, key individuals, both from sociological backgrounds and also from scientific backgrounds, and why they were pushing this argument and the rationale for it. The argument given that it brings about sadness, it brings about depression, but I gave you just 2 snippets of information, data that have been collated by media, which clearly demonstrated quite the opposite to what the atheists were saying. And what you would have noticed, hopefully, is that I embedded the understanding that I was giving you and discussed it from the Qur'an, from a Quranic perspective. Again, to demonstrate that our deen is not something which is fossilized. Our deen is not something which only dealt with issues 1400 years ago, 1000 years ago. Our deen is dealing with issues today, here and now. It's not just something which is that we read in Ramadan or we read in Salah. Yes, it has a ritual aspect to it, but it's a message. That's why Qur'an means the recital. It is something we read and something we engage with, and it answers questions to you all the time. So you know, bear those kind of thoughts in mind, and I do want to demonstrate that, and I hope I will do throughout today. Particularly, I did this last week. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the atheists, and you find that the argument that they give us is already the arguments which gave before, hence the reason why, is it really new atheism? Has anything changed? Because these arguments were given back in, and we see references, citations from the Qur'an in which these were given before. But something changed. 9/11 changed the world, so to speak, and we start to see this extremism within atheism, even though the impression that's given about atheism is that it's not extreme, it's something fair, it's something rational, it's something open for discussion and debate. There's no compulsion, there's no emotion. And we see, look at some of the quotes I gave you last week, clearly that's not the case. It's just a veneer that's given. And then these false misnomers about the fact that religion brings about death, religion, brings about no good, and good religion never brought good to the world, it brought bad to the world. People fight over it. But when you look at the wars, which are very much secular wars, not religious wars, then you will see that considerably large amounts of people have died, where no religious wars come anywhere near that number of deaths. So again, nonsense is being talked. Similarly, the impression that's given is religion brings about extremism. Extremism brings about terrorism. Terrorism brings about death to innocents. But when we look at the statistics I shared with you, you can see that considerably there's been lots of terrorism, if we can use that phrase, that's been carried out by organizations which have been, okay, you can count IRA maybe separately, by individuals who are very much non-religious based. And if we took Islam particularly, then you will see that the numbers are considerably lower. In fact, not 1 year has so-called, and I use this word Islam inspired. This is not my slide. It's a slide I borrowed. There's no such thing as Islam inspired terrorists. This is the misunderstanding of Islam. And then I moved on, and we started to see that, is atheism actually a faith? In that it's a belief system, and what are they trying to achieve? And we had these conferences held, and journals, were scientific journals, pushing things like replace God with science, replace religion with scientific process. So these don't seem to be happy-go-lucky, let's find out what the world is like, each man for his, each man to his own, live and let live. It doesn't seem like that kind of philosophy. It seems to be quite clearly an agenda behind this. And the video for this is available on the Masjid's YouTube channel, so you can access it, inshallah, if I'm going through this quickly, which clearly I am, because I need to get to today's talk. So then we said, is science a substitute for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And I can't teach you science either in 2 sets of slides. You may have noticed some of my credentials on the first slide. My background was in science. My first degree is in applied chemistry, so I know the way science operates. I spent over a decade in that industry, so I speak from experience, not just something that I've just sort of looked at from previously. Azia, again, if I leave the chats to you, if there's something specific, please raise it. If not, I'll let you deal with that, inshallah, so I can focus on the slides. So I mentioned the inductive and the deductive approach. Yani the empirical model, and also the more the rational model, where people hypothesize. As I said, please watch the video and you'll see things a lot clearer there. And we found that actually science is not there to substitute Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Science is there to ascertain knowledge, to determine things. And we quoted clearly that science, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never told us to abandon science and blindly believe. And I quoted you numerous ayats. I only quoted you these because of lack of space and to just prove the point, rather than to be an exhaustive list of every single ayah which mentions that. And we saw so many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demanding from us that أَفَلَا يَنْزُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Sorry for those of you who don't understand Arabic. And that's, we should, as a ummah, be learning Arabic, not necessarily Arabic so that we can speak it to one another, but Arabic so at least we can understand the word of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your beloved God, has sent you a message. Wouldn't you want to know what he's saying to you? So I tempt you, and I say, learn at least Quranic Arabic. Not so that you can do tafsir or anything like that. Obviously, we all need to be qualified in that area, just so that this becomes a bit more personal to you. So when you you understand it, you focus on those things which are giving you some kind of encouragement, not necessarily those which are of a legal capacity, or those which are of a theological capacity, because obviously that would be for the experts to delve into, not for the average folk. So for us, we need to kind of connect with this. And I recall back in the day, whenever I teach students who just want to learn Quranic Arabic, I think there's about 2,000 words which are oft repeated in the Quran. And if you learn those 2,000 words approximately, then you will know around 80% of what the Quran is trying to say. Now, 365 days in a year, 3, 6, 12, 18, 15, 18, 21. There's not many long, 7 years, even if you learned a word a day. But if you learn 7 words a day, which is possible, then within a year, you can do that. We've been in lockdown since March. We're now in June. That's 3 months. We could have learned that within these 3 months. And we're not using our time constructively or productively. So we move on, and then we also I justify the rational model which also exists within the Quran. So we can see that this doesn't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not against the scientific process. So basically we're getting lies from atheists, because we see people in white lab coats, or we see people with credentials. We somewhat get frightened that they must know more, but really there's an agenda, and there's a lot of hypocrisy that exists there. Moving on. So this is a false, there's numerous false dichotomies being set up, like science versus Islam, rationality versus irrationality, sound, reasonable, and absolute versus unsound, unreasonable, and speculative. So eventually, even people of faith start to abandon the Quran, start to abandon hadith, because they see them as irrational. They see them as unsound, unreasonable, and speculative. And unfortunately, because we don't have the science of hadith, just because somebody mentions Bukhari or mentions Muslim or says this is the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, we accept it. We don't have the skills to go to ascertain whether that actually is the saying of the Prophet. So unfortunately, we get false attributions. Even if somebody quoted something and said it is a verse of the Quran, how would we know it's a verse of the Quran? Now, unless we know the 6,000 odd verses, we would easily be fooled by it. So this shows that when there's ignorance, we can easily be misled in situations of ignorance. I've proven beyond doubt the science leads to Islam. Okay, it does not take a person away. Empirical research and rational reasoning from a sound mind and a clean heart will lead to accepting Islam, unless one is setting oneself up as a god. And that's going to lead into today's lecture. Okay, so now we get into today's lecture. As I said, provocative titles. So we have idol, I God, there is no God. So you can see that first idol worship is being set up. So for the first thing which is being set up is what I call a false God. In order to take us away from Allah, a false God has to be set up. Because if a person sets himself up as a God, then it's obvious. People will say, well, you're not my God. So they will not follow. So what they do is they set up an abstract thing, something which is something else, and say that this is your God. And we see examples of that throughout the Quran, but unfortunately, time restricted. I have half an hour or so left in order to get through the slides. But as we've repeated several times, we probably need a day workshop. Even then, that would just about give us an understanding of what's going on. So let's move on to this. So who have new atheists replaced Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with? So what you find now is there, so who is the God? So we have at the bottom is Islam. So we have, for example, Allah, Islam, and religious scholars. But you notice now that God has been replaced by new atheists. The new religion is called atheism, and the experts are new atheists. So you can see there's actually a personal gain from this, because the experts themselves are setting themselves up as God. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself mentions that religious scholars need to be careful. Why do religious scholars need to be careful? Yani ulama. Ulama have to be careful that they don't set themselves up as God. Because the people who have knowledge of the faith if they are misguided, if they are ulama usu, then unfortunately they can set themselves up as God. So I'm sure you've seen the videos going around where you see ignorant masses prostrating in front of men, ignorant masses giving hundreds and thousands to asking them to get them into Jannah and things like that. So you're starting to see that these individuals are starting, and this is exactly what you see within these experts of new atheists, that they set themselves up as God. So we have to be careful that it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who we follow. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who we believe in, but we don't necessarily have access to him in terms of the legal and theological, except through religious scholars. However, when it comes to talking to Allah, we do not need to go to religious scholars to talk to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is available to every single human 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, for example, we see in the Catholic, particularly in the Catholic Church, that the person would go in and I forgot the phrase, where they sit in the little box next to the confession. That's the word. So when they go for confession, that, oh, Father, I have sinned. And then the Father asks for forgiveness for that person. We don't need to do that. We don't need to go to a Mufti or an alim and say, I've sinned. We go to Allah and we ask. So there's a direct link for humans with Allah. But yes, when it comes to legal, theological, we do need our religious scholars to guide us, and that's where we need them. Okay, so we have Eagleton's assessment of Dawkins. So this is not an Islamic scholar or something. This is his own assessment of Dawkins' arguments. Are his arguments sound? He says that the way Dawkins does his arguments, try to make a convincing case for a non-theistic and atheistic understanding, is that what he does is selects an uncomprehensive subset of theistic arguments. So he picks on them. He then caricatures those arguments, okay, referring to, but not quoting regularly. For example, there was a discussion between a Muslim journalist, and I'm pretty sure it was Dawkins, and Dawkins did not raise any other matters. He said to the journalist, you're a Muslim, and the Muslim obviously said, yes, I am. He says, do you believe that Muhammad, obviously he was speaking as a non-Muslim, climbed on a flying horse, and he said it with sarcasm, the way I'm going to try to say it, that do you believe? Okay, so I'm just now putting myself in the guy's shoes and speaking like that. Obviously, as a Muslim, I do, but I'm just trying to give you an understanding. He says, do you believe that a man can jump on a flying horse with wings and it flies him from Mecca and takes him to Jerusalem? Do you believe that? Notice he omitted the part which mentions that then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to the 7 heavens. He doesn't mention that part. He only mentions that part which he can caricature as an argument. So the whole religious argument now became based on this one point. Now, if the journalist replied, yes, I do, then the onlookers will think, oh my God, this guy believes in fairies. He believes in, things that children believe in, like flying horses, whatever. Can you see the way this style of argument is? Okay. So, and then what they do is then they give the appearance of blowing away the argument by saying that's ridiculous. There's no such thing as flying horses. Notice he doesn't say that there's no such thing as going up to the heavens and back, because that can't be proven. He's trying to make an argument here that flying horses, we have never seen a flying horse. How many horses have you seen? And that person might say, I've seen 10 horses. Have you seen any one of them that flies? And he will say, no. So then how can you believe that the Prophet Muhammad climbed on a flying horse? So you can see the way the argument, this is what's called straw man arguments, okay? And this is the way people argue. And so therefore, we need to equip ourselves to be able to see that argument. Yes, we're not all going to become, scholars of debate. It's not for everybody. But we do need to see when that argument is being played to us. And our iman needs to be protected in that case. But does the scientific way explain everything? We did say that science does lead us to Allah. When we look at the heavens, we see the planets, we see the moon, we see the sun. How amazing it is that our planet is perfect. Any closer to the sun, we would die. Any further away from the sun, we would die. So we are so perfectly placed. The earth is so perfectly placed that we don't die. We need the sun, obviously. Without the sun, we would die, but it's perfectly placed. The moon and the sun are of a different size. Significant different size. I think that about 400 times the sun is bigger than the moon. However, the sun is 400 times further away from us than the moon. So when we see an eclipse, they're exactly the same size. Coincidence? Of course not. These are signs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the skies. He's placed in our bodies so that we can then reflect and think, how did this come about? Could this come about by chance? And if a person believes that something can come about by chance, then he should get a lump of steel and place it on the ground and hope that that turns into an iPhone 11 Max. Nobody in their sane mind, if I was to ask anybody on this forum now, say that just wait put a lump of steel in front of you, or whatever material the phone is made from, put a piece of glass, put some metal, and just sit there and wait for it to turn into an iPhone 11. You go up to a 3-year-old and say that to the 3-year-old, the 3-year-old will say, "You're stupid. How can that turn into an iPhone 11? Then how can we accept that we just came about by chance, when we are so advanced in an iPhone 11 that the camera in an iPhone 11 cannot imitate the eyes? How can that be? That the phone is much with AI that it has in it, cannot think like the brain. So you think the brain just came about by chance? So science can't explain everything, okay? All it can do is we've got the empirical and the rational models, and they're limited. They can look at what we can observe and measure. I gave you the example of the apple falling from the tree last week. And also we can hypothesize the person getting hit by a car, and we can reason. So, but can the scientific way answer what is me? Who am I? Okay. Can it answer the question, is there another world after this? Can science answer that? Can science answer, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from me? Can science answer, what's my purpose? And can science answer, why am I not content except when I believe in Allah? And we've seen many examples, and I don't take any comfort in this or any happiness in this. We will see people who reach the highest echelons of society, where they will be either the greatest entertainer, the greatest performer, have millions, have billions, but they will not be content. Why are they not content? Why aren't rich people happy? Why aren't famous people happy? You'll see excessive drug use. You will see relationships breaking down. That shouldn't happen. So that clearly shows even when a person reaches there, they don't get contentment. For the 99% of us, we never even reach there. For the 1% that does become wealthy or become powerful or become famous, even when they reach there, they don't get contentment. So where is this contentment? Science cannot answer these questions for me. Secondly, can we be good without Allah? Can we be good? Many people say, okay, fair enough, if you need religion to be good, it's good for you. But I don't need religion to be good. That's not true. And this is probably apt now with the Black Lives Matter situation ongoing, is that social Darwinism, and now they're saying that, you know, this racist ideology that exists, this has existed to justify treating Black people as less humans than white people, as less developed. And I will hopefully get a chance, hopefully Zia will organize this sometime in the future, inshallah, where I will deliver the evolution work that I've done. I did deliver it very quickly over the Ramadan session, but again, that probably needs 2 sessions to discuss that. And that's the kind of scientific argument. This is a sort of the philosophical argument against Islam. Then we have a scientific argument against Islam. So people were seen as savages when the settlers arrived from England and they saw the Native Americans. They said, these are backward non-humans, we can kill them. And that's what they did. Similarly, when they went to Africa and colonized Africa, exactly the same thing. And likewise, when they went to Australia, they did the same thing. You know, so people, for example, in America were called Red Indians. Okay, very racist term. Reason why is because they thought that if they set sail towards the west, then eventually they would go all the way around, arrive in India. So when they actually arrived, they arrived in the States. They didn't arrive in India because they didn't know there was a huge lump of land there. So when they arrived there, they just thought they were Indians. So they referred to them as Indians. But they noticed there was a slight color change in the skin. So they referred to them as Red Indians. Only now, in the last sort of maybe 50, 60 years, they're now referred to as Native Americans, because they were there before Christopher Columbus discovered it. Because again, as a history is also very racist, because, you know, Christopher Columbus discovered America. Well, who lost it? There were people living there. Nobody lost it. But it's a very white-oriented, history is very white-oriented, and probably that's another lecture for another time, which is why we have this inferiority complex as brown people. We have this inferiority complex as Black people, because in a way, we didn't exist until the white man found us. So, but again, another time. Nazi Germany, as much as the negativity that's around, it was a very sophisticated secular society. Remember, religion was completely removed. In fact, they had big issues with religion, and hence you saw the Jewish people in particular being put to the sword and being removed from society. They looked at the society in a very scientific way. Emotion was put to one side. So when they saw a disabled person, they did not think, oh goodness, society needs to look after that disabled person. They felt that disabled person was soaking up the finances of the community. So they were a burden on society, so they should be killed. And if you really look at it from a scientific perspective, why would a society keep the weak alive? If you look at any animal kingdom, they don't keep the weak alive. The weak are left. So this was Nazism, in fact, and this is where people don't discuss this, especially Europeans. Nazism was motivated by an ethic that prided itself on being scientific. In fact, the scientists that were taken from Nazi Germany were taken to the States. And very much of what you see happening in the States in the 50s and 60s was because of the German scientists, not because of the American scientists, because there was a lot of technology that existed amongst the Nazis, which was taken across there, which was developed. So science is amoral, meaning science has no morals. It's not something we can determine morals from. So can we be good without Allah? Well, technically, no, because science is not going to give us that answer. If it did, then we wouldn't see what was going on in Nazi Germany with their eugenics program. And I'm not going to list all the stuff. You can search this on the internet and you'll see the scientific experiments they carried out. Like, for example, the seawater experimentation, where they gave filtered seawater to the people that they were holding to see how it would work. And lots of other things, live body part transplantation, you know, head injuries where they strap somebody in a chair and hit them on the head with a hammer to determine what happens after 3 strikes, after 10 strikes, because they did not look at humans as humans. The element of humanity had gone. It was after that then we had the Nuremberg Code of Medical Ethics. Now, why would we need that if science can determine goodness? It can't. We needed something else to do to look over science. So atheism, in essence, is a religion like all other religions. It's all about power and authority over the people. It's, instead of servitude to Allah, it's servitude to a select individuals. That's what it's about. It's about hearts and minds, and we hear that argument all the time. Lots of lies and lots of hypocrisy, which is hidden with fancy words and tight suits. The whole universe is a huge coincidence. That's the argument. Really, I gave you the example of an iPhone 11. Forget that. Let me make it easy for you. iPhone 3. For those of us, and in fact, for those of us who are my age, we'll remember the Nokias from way back in the day in the 90s when phones first came about. Even a Nokia, if you leave a lump of metal, will not turn into a Nokia. It's not possible. It's impossible. Then how can this universe, the stars, the galaxies, the black holes, everything that you see around you, oxygen, nitrogen, how can that all come about? By chance. It's flawed. That's the argument. Everything has occurred by chance. And then we have no soul. That's the another argument. We are just a biological body which has electrical impulses, and that's it. There is no such thing as a soul. Why do we have to believe that? Because the atheists want you to know that there's no accountability. Okay, you got no soul. What are you worried about? You're not going to die and then be resurrected and questioned. Do what you like. Live how you like. Okay, we come from nothing and we go to nothing. And then they use the concept evolution as a so-called scientific argument for this philosophy. And I do have, obviously, when I made these slides a few years ago, I then followed these up with a 2-part series on, as I called it, evolution, devolution, or devolution. As I said to you, I like my provocative titles. So if not atheism, why should we go to Islam? Why not? You know, if you go to the world, you know, buy a book, it's called The World Religions, and there's so many religions in there. So many religions. We know the famous ones: Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, Bahaism. You know, we know them now. We've got Scientology, and I'm sure there'll be more religions coming after. Why should we choose Islam if not atheism? And you know, sometimes our young people say that, oh, look, Dad, I was born as a Muslim. How do we know Islam is the truth? Just because I was born as a Muslim, you know, what if I was born as a Christian? Would then Christianity be the truth? And it's a question that our youngsters ask. They may not be asking directly, but it's going through their minds. Well, first of all, let's look at the man himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is Friday, so we send as much durood upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as possible after the Maghrib of Thursday night up to Maghrib of tonight, and particularly Asr time, inshallah, up till Maghrib tonight. Today, rather, is we send durood upon him, because this man was remarkable. He was unlettered and not educated by humans, which was rare for somebody of his quality. He was a Quraysh, and Quraysh were quite a highly exalted society and community, tribe, sub-tribe within the tribes. So therefore, it's unusual that he wasn't, but obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had plans for him. He was morally upright and an exceptional character. He was highly regarded. He lived amongst his people for 40 years. People knew who he was. They knew he was not a fake. They had spent 40 years with him. They knew his parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. They knew the man. He was not a stranger. He had very little knowledge of the Judeo-Christian faith because within Mecca, there was hardly any there. There was something in the tip of the Arabian Peninsula around Yemen, but not around Mecca. And similarly, it was, in fact, rather more, it was a polytheistic surrounding. They were pagans, were Arabs. And he performed miracles. Okay. So this is rational. I'm looking at irrational. Okay. He performed. So these are all things which are rationally based. When a witness comes to you to make a statement, what do you need to know? And you need to know this. Was he taught before by someone what to say? No, he wasn't. Okay. Is he a bad man? No, he's not. Is he morally defunct? Is he immoral? No, he's not. Then he's performing miracles. Now we have what's so-called the laws of science, Boyle's law, Newton's law, law of conservation. He split the moon. Goes against what you would consider to be normal science, okay? Water came from his hands. He traveled to Masjid al-Aqsa on the 7th heaven and back in seconds. So that shows he was doing something outside the laws. These are laws which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates. The laws of chemistry, the laws of physics, the laws of biology. He has created them for this world to work. Yet his Anbiya, he gives them miracles, so they do things which are outside the laws of science in order to show to the people that this man is a chosen one from Allah. We see he also, when we look at the stories of the prophets, we see that they're different to the Tanakh and the New Testament, where, for example, Sulaiman alayhi salam, Solomon, is spoken about in a very ill way. In the previous text, he's not spoken about in that way. Like Joseph, Yusuf alayhi salam is spoken in an ill way in the Old Testament. He's not spoken like that. His relationship with Zuleika is very different in the New Testament and Old Testament. And I don't necessarily advise people to be reading into the Old Testament and New Testament. I'm only saying this so that we become aware of it. For those of us who are obviously experts, this is our day job, then yes, we have to do that. But for the average person, it will bring about more confusion. Stories of past people. He gave detailed explanations of people who lived in different times and places, which were then corroborated by those people. He gave detailed matters that were not public. He made prophecies about the immediate future. One example is Tabbat Yada Abi Lahabi wa Tab. The story or the small ayat, a small surah we find at the end of the Quran in which he mentions Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab, he says, will go to Jahannam. Abu Lahab, that very day when he heard the ayat, could have accepted Islam. The very day he heard the ayat, just to prove the Prophet ﷺ wrong, he could have accepted Islam and said, there you go, your prophecies are wrong. Your prophecy says I will go to Jahannam, I've now become a Muslim. But he didn't. Okay, that just shows his prophecies. He invited people to think and reflect. He never forced anybody. And you will see, particularly within the Orientalists, they will say that Islam was spread by the sword. Again, false. La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. He made no personal requests. He did not ask for any favors. He would do things himself. His companions would only find out. So when you start to see people making personal requests for themselves, then obviously they may have an ulterior motive. But if they're not making any personal requests, then that shows that he's coming to bring a message. He allowed people to freely choose their faith with no ridicule or belittling. So Quran is the last time Allah spoke to humans. And I use the word God in places because some of these lectures, obviously, non-Muslims have access to. So I want to speak in a language which they're familiar with, not necessarily use too many Arabic words, even though obviously for certain things like Quran, I have to, and the use of the word Allah every now and then, and Muhammad, these are words which I have no choice. But sometimes it's good to use language which is familiar so people can connect with what you're speaking about. It supersedes all other texts, okay? Other texts are no longer in their revealed form. Most religions had the basis was an oral tradition, and they were written significantly after the event. In some cases, when, for example, with Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, they were waiting for the second coming. But when 60, 70, 80 years passed and Isa alayhi salatu wasalam did not come, and they hadn't written anything, they said, right, we need to quickly write down what Isa alayhi salam said. So that was written significantly later, expecting his second coming. many of them are translations. So you'll see the King James Bible and the X Bible and the Y Bible. I lost count. There is a significantly large number of translated Bibles which exist. If you compare them, they aren't the same. And there are significant modifications which are made in there. When things became not palatable to the society, they remove them. So for example, now there's certain topics which, in a Sharia country, the punishment for adultery is not palatable. So you'll see communities trying to remove it, but the Quran is protected, so they can't remove it. So it's being reinterpreted. The hijab, the concept of the hijab is being reinterpreted. So you'll find that the Quran is protected, so you cannot change the Quran as much as people have tried in the past. So now what's happening is it's being interpreted in a unique, different way. So this was sent last until the end of times. It was prophesied in the former texts. It's mentioned in the Bible. No messenger came after him. So anybody who claims to be Muslim, but then also believes that a messenger came after, cannot be. That's an oxymoron. It's flawed. Islam is based on the Khatm Nabuwwat, that Rasulullah SAW is the last prophet. Now, anybody else who comes after wants to believe in the fact that another prophet came, fine. That's each person can believe in whatever they believe. But to say that they're a Muslim is not sound, because Islam is not based upon self-claim. Islam is based upon what particular characteristics or conditions that person meets. So if a person was to say that I don't believe Prophet Muhammad, now I'm just saying it from the person's perspective. If a person was to say, I do not believe Muhammad was a prophet, but I'm a Muslim, then I would say, well, you can't be. If he says, I can't be what? I say, well, you can't be a Muslim. Well, I can. I just said to you, I am. No, but you do not believe in something which is an absolute essential aspect of Islam. Therefore, how can you be a Muslim when you have to meet a certain criteria and that you do not meet that? So that's important to understand. It is the only book that is memorized and recited daily. That itself is a miracle, and that is its protection. It is practiced by many millions of people on a daily basis. In fact, I would say millions should really have been billions. Every single one of us, alhamdulillah, in the next 5-10 minutes, we'll be praying our Dhuhr Salah. Can you imagine how many people in the UK are going to be praying that Dhuhr Salah? Can you imagine how many people in the States, in Europe, in the Middle East, in the Far East, in South Asia? How many billions of people are reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, and how many times do we recite it? Name me another religion that is doing that on a daily basis. That doesn't exist. Every single one of us at least know Surah Al-Fatiha. We at least know Surah Ikhlas. We at least know the Tashahud, the At-Tahiyyat. We know that. Many people in other faiths don't know the basics. This is the only text that was revealed over 23 years. And that makes it unique. Why? It has a complete legal apparatus in there. It is applicable in all situations. We saw that the Prophet ﷺ was living as a minority, a persecuted minority in Mecca, but then he lived as a majority in Medina. So we see how a community will engage with the wider society when they're a minority, and we also see how a Muslim community would engage when they're a majority. So we have all of that. So it is time sensitive, it is situation sensitive. We find that it's accepted by people of various ethnicities and walks of life. You will see masajids being built in Africa, very different than masajids being built in China, very different than masajids being built in, say, Uzbekistan. People have so many, you go for Hajj this year, that might not be possible, or for Umrah, and you'll see people of all skin colors, of all languages. It is a religion which brings people together. Yet you will see, particularly in Christianity, a very white-dominated religion, a religion for the white person. So you saw, for example, the Black Americans revolting against this white religion, and you saw the Nation of Islam coming about, which is not a Muslim organization, but it was something which was set up to challenge the white-dominant Christianity. And then we had, obviously, true Islam reaching there. So this is open to all ethnicities, all walks of life. You do not need to be rich or in high society or wherever. In fact, it is the meek which go towards it first. And in fact, it's the fastest growing religion in the West. And it has a global message. It speaks not just about one society. And I will touch upon the confusing issues. I know I'm drawing close to my end of the, not my end. Hopefully I've got a few more years left. I'm drawing close to the end of the session. Please permit me whatever couple of minutes I have to finish the last few slides. I'm just going to focus on Christianity because that's the religion of UK. It's a Christian country. That's how it's defined. And it is the main religion of the West. Yes, Judaism exists, but Judaism will always be a minority because it's not a religion which pushes for, it doesn't make dawah, for example. Judaism is something which you are either born in. So if your mother is Jewish, then you are a Jew. If your father is Jewish, but your mother isn't, then within Orthodox Judaism, they won't accept you as a Jew. And even if you convert to Judaism, you'll be like a second grade Jew or a third grade Jew. You're not really a Jew because it's a blood thing. It has to be in the blood. So therefore, but Christians do a lot of proselytizing, if I can pronounce the word properly. So you'll see in Asia a lot of work going on by Christians to convert people to Christianity. In Africa, you will see, in Africa, for example, Christianity didn't exist. They had their own tribal religions and they had Islam because the white Christians did not think of black people as being human enough to take Christianity. They were of a lesser quality. They needed to be slaves, not necessarily be taught religion. It was the Muslims, as they were advancing through Africa, that taught that. But anyway, that's another issue. So the whole concept of Trinity is so confusing. You ask any Christian, please explain to me the Trinity. And it's so confusing. 3 in 1, 1 in 3, the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost, the Father and the Son. Okay, who's who, what's going on? And people will get confused. God sacrificing his son for the sins of man. And what does that even mean? How did God have a son? And if they say, well, Mary was well, what was Mary? Mary was Jesus's mother. Okay, so how is Mary then linked to God? Is she the wife of God? And if she is, can you have a divine human relationship? Can a divine have a child from a human, from a mortal? And if he can, then what will that child be? Is that child semi-mortal? How can he be semi-mortal? You are either immortal or you're mortal. You can't be like half. It doesn't make sense. And why would God have a son so that he could sacrifice him to forgive man? Why not just forgive them? And why have a son? Why only one? Why not have a daughter? There's so many things which just don't add up. And these are conversations I've had with Christians. I'm not speaking from a Muslim perspective. The whole concept of original sin, because Adam ate from the apple, from the tree, that means we are born sinned. We're already sinners when we're born. Why? Why are we carrying the sins of our father? It does not make sense. It's just so confusing. Mary's chastity is dropped because people then struggle to accept that Mary was the wife of God or had a relationship with God. People struggle to understand that. So then they said, okay, Joseph was her husband, the man she was with. But some people say, well, Joseph wasn't married to her. Well, okay, did she now be like commit sin? All these sorts of things they had to deal with, and it just would not make sense because if now, remember, I'm speaking all this from a Christian perspective. Please take that. I keep giving you these disclaimers so that it's understood properly. Because then the argument is, if Joseph was not married to Mary, then the child born from that relationship is whatever. And similarly, if Joseph was in a relationship with Mary, then why are we attributing the child that was born from this relationship to God? It just does not add up. And then we moved into idolatry, which Christianity supposedly came to remove, because we see, even within the Bible, Jesus supposedly breaking the idols within Beit al-Maqdis. Well, we now have, if you go into a Catholic church, you'll see lots of idols of Mary. But forget that. Any church, Church of England, anywhere, you will see a cross with supposedly Jesus on it. And people will cross themselves, they will bow, they will take a knee. So this is idolatry, which Christianity came against. And yet, time and time again, you will see in the Bible, Isa al-Islam, or let me just keep with that same language, same terms, Jesus referring to the people as, "O children of Israel." He never says, "O children of the world." He never says, "Oh, everybody." He says, "Oh, children of Israel." So who is he addressing? The children of Israel. Who were the children of Israel? The Jews. So why have we taken a message which was particularly brought to deliver to Jews to be considered as a global religion in order to pass it to everybody else when Jesus himself did not say it? And Jesus' resurrection, there's many other flawed concepts which exist, because if Jesus was, because obviously I think it's Mary Magdalene goes to check on him in his tomb, where he's tombed, and he's not there. And he stands up in front of her. Well, if that was Jesus' resurrection, then when is his second coming? Because that's already happened. And then, well, if God has already sacrificed his son for my sin, then can I sin? Why am I asking for forgiveness for my sins when my sins have been forgiven because God sacrificed his only son? And if I have no motivation to avoid sinning, why can't I just sin? I'm sorted. I'm going to heaven anyway because God sacrificed his only son. But you will say, Christians will say, don't sin. Why? And then at the end of the day, what purpose does the Bible serve? Because many people will say the Bible is just there as a kind of a guidance. Okay, what do you mean by a guidance? Well, it teaches us to do good things. Well, there's things in there which, I don't know the full audience here, that are somewhat very disgusting. What purpose does that serve? Where there's, incest and things of that nature. How can that serve any purpose? How can that be a book of guidance? So there are lots of issues here, okay? So that's why Christianity can't be something that we adopt. The human obviously is both body and soul. The soul lives forever. Your soul was created. Your soul will never die. Your soul was brought up on the planes of the souls, and then you were kept there until your time came in the dunya, and then you were blown into your mother's womb when around 40 days. That's when you were blown in. Your soul has been with you since that time. It will stay with you. Then when you die, your soul will be taken out from your body. It will be delivered to Allah. It will be brought back to your body. You will then be questioned. Once you've been questioned, you will, inshallah, in our situation, be told to sleep. Then your soul with your body will be resurrected. It will go to the planes of judgment through the various cycles, through the various steps, rather. And then it will be entered into eternal bliss or eternal damnation. Your soul will not die. Okay, so you'll always feel something. And the similitude is of a fetus in a womb. And I know I'm being really cheeky by carrying on, but I'm from Bradford, and we can be cheeky. And that is the similitude of a fetus in a womb. If you were to go into a womb and tell the unborn child that you're going to go to a place where you're going to wear clothes, the fetus will say to you, what are you talking about? What are clothes? If you told the fetus you're going to go to a place where there's going to be other people like you, they'll say, don't be so silly. If you told the fetus that you're going to use those little legs and you're going to walk with them, they'll say, don't be daft. If you said to the fetus that you're going to have to eat through your mouth, not through that thing which is connected to your belly button, not that umbilical cord, then he'll say, don't be so daft. If he was to say to the fetus that you're going to separate from your mother and go out into the world, he'll say, don't be so daft. So like we say all these things to the fetus about the dunya, and the fetus is somewhat surprised and shocked that all these things exist, then we are in the fetus of the world. We will also go and be born in another plane, and the same thing will happen. Okay, I'm going to really go through this now quickly because I think I'm extending my too much. Allah is the only creator, all powerful. This is not a battle between God and Satan, okay? This is a battle between good versus evil. We have a choice, okay? We are not compelled. Life is a test. There are those who suffer the consequences, and if they stay patient, they will get rewarded for it. And there are those of us who aren't suffering the consequences, and Allah is testing our reaction to those. Do we agree at all with new atheists? Yes, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Dawkins said, I don't have a very starry school career. I was medium to above average, nothing special. We agree with you, Dawkins Sab. We agree. And finally, this is the way atheists are trying to determine the world. And it's a nice poem from John Godfrey Sachs. It was 6 men of Hindustan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first approached the elephant and happened to fall against his broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl. God bless me, but the elephant is nothing but a wall. The second, feeling of the tusk, cried, ho, and what have we here? So very round and smooth and sharp, to meet his mighty clear. This wonder of an elephant is very like a spear. The third approached the animal, and happening to take the squirming trunk within his hands, I see, quoth he, the elephant is very like a snake. The fourth reached out his eager hand and felt about the knee. What most this wondrous beast is like is mighty plain, quoth he. 'Tis clear enough the elephant is very like a tree. The fifth, who chanced to touch the ear, said, e'en the blindest man can tell what this resembles most, deny the fact who can. This marvel of an elephant is very like a fan. The sixth no sooner had begun about the beast to grope, than seizing on the swinging tail that fell within his scope, I see, quoth he, the elephant is very like a rope. And so these men of Hindustan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion exceedingly stiff and strong, though each party was in the right and all were in the wrong. So oft in theological wars the disputants, I ween, tread on in utter ignorance of what each other mean, and prate about the elephant not one of them has seen. The reason why I quote this poem is because this is the way the atheists try to tell us what the world, the dunya is, and the akhirat is, but they're blind men feeling in darkness. Wa akhiru da'wana, and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
Jazakallah khair, Mufti Sahab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. A lot to take in. But alhamdulillah, personally, on a personal level, I say today's talk made more sense to me than the last one. Alhamdulillah.
You're learning, mashallah. You're learning. That's a good side.
But I'm sure there are people on this call, alhamdulillah, they are the science graduate or they have understanding of science. It makes more sense to them. But the whole purpose of this talk is just to create awareness. So what we need to take from this one, you got to be mindful now what is happening in the school, colleges, universities, and as a parent, we need to educate ourselves. And if I'm somebody who is not a science graduate or don't have information or don't have an answer, Mufti Sahib is there, and there are a lot of scholars, alhamdulillah, they specialize in this field when it comes to atheism. And there's a lot of resources available on YouTube from these scholars as well. So we need to take advantage of this information and educate our children, engage with them, talk to them. The most important thing we need to do, we need to engage with them and let them ask the question. I think the biggest problem in our community is what I have noticed and witnessed. We don't allow our children to ask us the question. If we don't give them an answer, who they're going to go and ask these questions to? The people who are not qualified to answer these questions in an Islamic perspective. So brother, sister, Jazakallah khair for joining us today. I'm just going to hand it over to Brother Tahir, and just a reminder for all of you, I know the masjid is closed, but alhamdulillah, those of you who are missing your masjid, alhamdulillah, we assure you, inshallah, we are working very, very hard, and it is our dream, alhamdulillah, it is our intention to open the masjid as soon as possible. You have no idea, last couple of days, the brothers have been working tirelessly. We've got a lot of things in place, and inshallah, when the timing is right, we will open the masjid to accommodate our community. At the same time, brothers, sisters, Friday, blessed day, don't forget to donate. Whatever you used to donate on a Friday, the online bucket is there. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. All the information is available on this screen. Just give me 1 minute. So brothers and sisters, all the information is available on this page. You can donate via text messages. You can go to the hazemuslimcenter.org.uk, and there's a /donate. You can donate there as well. And there are a lot of other resources available. You can call us. We can collect the cash as well. We can take the payment through card as well. So everything is available. All you need to do, make an intention and contact us, and inshallah, we will make all the arrangements. Mufti Sahab is also next week, I believe, next Thursday. I'm just going to share the screen. Zaitoon Foundation, Olive Foundation, they urgently need £30,000. I think next week, 25th of June, they have a live appeal on Iqra TV. Yes, Sky Channel 742. And there's a phone number here. I'll share this message in our Hayes Muslim Center WhatsApp group and via broadcast as well. At the same time, we are reminding you to help all these organizations who are helping, supporting, and educating our community. So with this note, I'm just going to hand it over to Tahir Bhai. Tahir Bhai, if you can give us some update with regards to what is happening and where we are towards opening the masjid. So over to you, Tahir Bhai. And, sorry, Tahir Bhai, once you finish, you can close the session. I've got to rush to go to the masjid, brothers. They're waiting for me. So you can end the call, then you can close.
Yes, I'll be very quick indeed, because the people are waiting to pray as well. First of all, Jazakallah khair, Mufti Sahab, brilliant talk. I was totally immersed. Some of the stuff you've said and mentioned, it all came together in the second part. Jazakallah khair. Obviously, we need to try and bring you into our masjid so you can talk to the wider audience. We only have very limited people on these Zoom calls and on YouTube, inshallah. One of the things that I want to tell those people listening is this recorded as well?
Yeah, this is on YouTube. Yes, Tahir, it is recorded.
Yeah, but it's recorded as well, isn't it? So we can distribute it on social media, because I think the talk is very, very important. So maybe we can.
YouTube, my apology, I forgot to record on my computer. But it is available on YouTube, and I can download it.
Mufti Sahab, can you start all over again? Sorry. Anyway, never mind. we'll find a way around it anyway. I'm sure somebody's recorded it as well. Just a reminder, one thing, this week is also Men's Health Week. Very, very important, because BME people are the ones who suffer a lot, and you've heard about it on the news all the time. 1 in 5 men are more likely to die before the age of 65. Mental health issues, suicide, all sorts of things going on. I haven't got time to talk about it now, but it's a mental health week. If you can go online and check out the statistics, they're very disturbing, especially when it comes to men, especially when it comes to Asians and Black people and others, minority groups. But anyway, the religion aspect obviously is always very, very helpful. When we talk about suicide, you talk about mental health, our Deen provides a lot of backup with these things. But if you haven't got that, as Yamba said, the management, the imams, we are available online for everybody to be in touch with us on this. In terms of masjid opening, I can tell you 2 days ago, we had risk assessment carried out by Faith Associates. Shaukat Bhai himself came and carried out almost 2.5 hours of risk assessment for our masjid, after he'd been to Kuba Masjid, where he spent 3.5 hours making recommendations of what we need to implement for us to safely open around the second week of July. So we look forward to that. But one thing, obviously, the opening is going to be very, very limited unless the footfall from 2 meters comes down to 1 meter. Well, our masjid downstairs holds something like 400 people, 450, just on the ground floor. We've got other floors as well. We've been, obviously, when we carried out the risk assessment, it can only hold 40 people. Now, can you imagine on a Friday trying to tell 200 people who are queuing outside and they'll have to distance, look, we can only take 40, and especially if it's raining. So from management point of view, it's going to be very, very difficult. How do you manage all this? Especially when it's on the outside, people may take photographs and pass them on to law enforcement as well. So we need to think about a lot of things as well and how to cover ourselves. Now, I'm mindful of the time, so I'll leave it there. Please support your local masjid, support Oli Foundation, support all the masajis and other institutions which are doing great, great work. Spread your money around. I'm not saying give everything to Atheist Muslim Center. If you're going to give £30, perhaps today might be a good idea to share it with Oli Foundation as well, because their need is just as great as everybody else's need as well. Jazakallah khair, Mufti Sahab, if you can just make a dua and we can conclude on that. Jazakallah khair.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم.
نعم.